So it should be quite interesting to see.
It would be interesting to see. What else I'd love to see is us being live, but unfortunately Craig's not hit the fucking button, even though he told us he did. We're not actually live.
I'm gonna kill myself. Love me like a dude. Oh, for God's sake.
I switched away from our cam screens, went, I'm gonna look at the chat, and went, hang on. It still says upcoming. Ah. Great.
We could get some practice in while we rate. Hendrick de Vries now heading into Tamburello.
He says he can hear us. Hello, Craig. You can hear us. But it's not live on YouTube. It's live. We're live now. What is going on?
They better not have heard what I said earlier.
Oh, yeah. No, we are live now. Apologies for that. But we are live now, ladies and gents. Apologies for any foul language you may have heard in the first part of this broadcast. But we're here in Imola, and we are here for a very interesting round of the LMGT3 challenge. And, well, Imola should throw up something very exciting. It's my name, Joseph Black, alongside Max Ring. We'll run that back. We'll call it again, and we'll pretend that nothing ever happened. We've got 7 minutes left in our qualifying session to set our grid and our timing tower for race day as well. The timing tower that's just been dragged up at the side of the screen. Hendrick de Vries is on the side of it, and he's at the moment at the top of it as well, but who knows where he'll be at the end of this qualifying session. An incredible 36 drivers contending the race around the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edina Ferrari, and where Hendrick de Vries is going to come around the final couple of corners. He will be the first one to set a lap time.
Yes, he certainly shall be. So we'll see what Hendrick de Vries can do. See what the Aston Martin driver can do. We do have some cars with some custom liveries for this evening, so that can also help us maybe distinguish the cars a little bit more. Jordan 40 now heading to the top of the time. It's a 45.3 for him by Brian Jalise heading into third. Quickly through the weight categories for everybody today, the people with the extra ballast. It's Robert Pure with 40. He, of course, scored the most points last time out, but Tom Osborne, who of course was the man who scored the second most amount of points because he's been in the top 5 drivers twice. He's got an extra 10 kilos on that car, so he's actually on 43 kilos, so heavier than Robert Pure. Sultan Fakonyi hits the top of the times now, half a second clear of Alistair Ramsey, who's on 39 kilos respectively. Then it's Sultan Fakonyi with 31, and finally Jordan 40 with the 13 kilos for this evening. But as we are halfway through this qualifying session, just drivers getting their lap times on the board. Tyres still being worked into their temperature windows. And we should see these guys going faster and faster as this session progresses. Hendrick de Vries still on his flying lap attempt. He's currently just under a second away from Zoltan Fakonyi, but goes very wide through Variante Alta, and that could really hurt his run. Now down into the 2 Ravazzas. So as he heads down the hill, Hendrick de Vries, is this just going to be setting himself up for another lap, or is he still up on his previous one? Jalise, Kroneski, and Zata Maria all into the pit lane, and de Vries wide once again, picking up another piece of gravel on the corner exit there of Ravazza 2. So we're now heading through the right-hander. What is it going to be for Hendrick de Vries? Not like F1 with a DRS line is at the very start of the straight. It's near enough turn 1, and he does improve up to third, 7 tenths off Varkonyi, who's now heading into the first Ravazza.
Yeah, Zoltan Varkonyi, of course, the name that we can barely escape, and at the moment the drivers can barely escape it as well. 44.3 is the lap time that he's set so far. It's already 4 tenths quicker than Tom Osborne. Is he going to be able to beat it on this time around? We shall have to wait and see, as the line was much later down the circuit than I thought it was. No, it is a 44.360 that is still his best lap time. And, well, we shall see what happens with Zoltan Varkonyi throughout this race, because, of course, less ballast means that he's got more of an opportunity to try and attack. And, well, he is looking good at the moment. Now, one of the recent updates in the Le Mans Ultimate game allowed for custom liveries and custom teams. And you can see here Daniel Christo, AMR GT3 Custom Team 2024. And it's a lovely little livery he's got going on there in the 397. And, well, it's just going to bring a whole other dimension to racing, not just in GT3s, not just in the LMGT3 challenge, but to Le Mans Ultimate as a whole. They can now spend hours perfecting their liveries and then going 2 seconds slower than they would have been expecting to on the circuit itself. But yeah, Daniel Christo, great example of an incredible livery, and he's going to come around with a pretty decent lap time. First sector is slightly faster than Jordan Biddle's in P7. Apologies for that one. And Daniel Christo around the final corner. Where is he going to go? For currently sitting 22nd, the first of all the drivers without having set lap times. But of course, he is going to come across the line to set one now, and it's going to be a little bit later down the line. There we go, crossing the line with a 45.7. That's going to put him in P7, so as I say, only just quicker than Jordan Biddle, and he exemplifies that. Only 0.026 ahead of Biddle. Brian Jalise just behind them, and then Dan Birch, an almighty 0.003, and behind is Robert Pure. No, Jordan Biddle that was, in fact, going up and improving. He went up to 6th place, and, well, the top 6 now split by less than a second.
Yeah, this is a second separating those top 6 cars. And just like what we saw in Brazil, it's all Aston Martin, unless your name is Tom Osborne, the BMW driver. Since that Brazilian outing has been a real standout so far this season. Last time out in Bahrain, took a race victory, then a 4th place to back it up. And he is the heaviest car on the field here this evening, and only 2/10 off championship leader Zoltan Varkonyi. He's certainly got the bit between his teeth in these past few meetings. And can we see another masterclass from the BMW driver? Robert Pure, he's in 7th, of course, the man who's really taken to that Lexus like a duck to water, really has fed into it well. It's absolutely suited him to a T compared to that McLaren, and he picks up a race victory in the 2nd place last time out in Bahrain. So for Tom Osborne now, as we head out of the Variante Outer and down into the 2 Ravazzas, can he try and snatch away that pole position from Zoltan Varkonyi, the BMW man, looking to topple the Aston Martin like he's done for a few times this season. He's really been a standout driver that's not been in the Aston Martin. He's different from the rest. What can he do as he's now heading up to the start-finish line? Tom Osborne, isn't it enough to beat the Hungarian? No, it doesn't seem so. Hendrik de Vries moves himself up into 2nd. Brilliant lap time there from the Dutchman to go only a 10th, just under 2/10 shy. And for Tom Osborne, he is still pushing on, putting a lot of wear on that tyre. But he really wants to try and break into Zoltan Varkonyi's gap. He wants to try and displace him. And at the moment, it's just not going the Brits' way.
No, it's not. And, well, I mean, 3rd place, not a bad place to start from. The top few won't be too disappointed with it, especially considering the fact that a number of them are in the same car, the 397 BMW. Although, of course, with the custom teams, it has meant that there's a little bit of a visual glitch. They do not show the car that they are in. And so I'll just get rid of that a little bit, and we just have a look at all the different cars on the circuit at the moment. Of course, there are many different cars, and Dan Wilson, that is certainly a very different car. That Iron Dames number 85 that currently sits now number 18 overall with a 1:46.818. A beautiful pink Lamborghini, and he goes and sets a lap time that is good enough to be in the mid-pack. We've still had a lot of drivers still haven't set their lap times. I believe it's about 12 of them, in fact, that have not. Charlton Bartoni, Gary Barham, Mark Kerner, Jorge Prieto, Carlos Casablanca, Gianni Manca, Adam Koshautsky, Rich Green, Daniel Bourchier, Louis Knight, Nikita Kachan, and Space One haven't set times, and Iro Vashuri is about to set one of his own.
Yep. Iro Vashuri, we'll see what he is going to be able to do. I think I found one of my favourite custom liveries on the field, and it's Dan Birch's McLaren, Marlborough McLaren to be exact. So lovely livery for him, of course, paying homage to the late 80s, early 90s McLaren cars. And we're going to see what Vazuri can do in the BMWs. He heads up to the line, of course. That was just setting himself up, getting those tyres into a window. So that's why he's 5.4 seconds down on the leader of Zoltan Varkonyi. He's gone out a little bit later than everybody else. Most people who've done a lap have gone out earlier, and he's had a spin instantly out of Tamburello. And that, for Aero Vazuri, is really going to pay homage to the rest of his session. He's going to head into the pits. That probably is him done. He's still got a lap time on the board, though, so he will start at least 24th on the grid. Kroneski is now, of course, ended that session, and it's Zoltan Varkonyi who snatches pole position. That Hungarian, even though he had a poor outing last time in Bahrain, he knows exactly how to bounce back here in Italy.
Yes, and what a start that is for Zoltan Varkonyi. As you say, bouncing back from the performance last time out, and we will see what he's going to be able to do. But now we have a look at our qualifying grid for this race. And, well, it's going to be Zoltan Varkonyi on that pole position, of course, as it usually seems to be these days, with Varkonyi up the very top of the field. Henrik de Vries will start alongside him as my graphic to go and have a look at the qualifying results. Hasn't quite worked, so we shan't run through that one. But anyway, I will read them out. Then it's Tom Osborne P3 alongside Alistair Ramsey P4. The two Jordans, 40 and Biddle 5th and 6th, with Daniel Christo P7. Robert Pure will line up 8th place, and then a 4 streak of 397s, which incredibly isn't the longest streak of 397s. That comes from 3rd to 7th, but still 9th to 12th. Brian Jalise, Dan Birch, Craig Starkey, and Franklin Stegig all repping that number 397. Then Matt Fordham and Bronski in 13th and 14th. Mark Cooley taking 15th, and Remy Alexander Borgshaw in 16th. Paul Garnham in 17th, and Dan Wilson rounding out the top half of the field. Sebastian Borgerson, Chris Willems, Michael Donnelly, Bella Setsmari, Massimiliano Ferrari, and Eero Vasuri, the cars that have finished their lap times. Then Gary Barham, Adam Kushowski. I don't need to run through all of them again, but Green, Borcher, Knight, Manka, Kashan, 1, Bartoni, Casablanca, Prieto, and Kerner had not set lap times. But as that's a car going off in the background, they haven't had a good start to the race. The race, though, has not even started. And now we go up to the line with Varkonyi ready to lead us away. We're waiting for those green flags, for that call, for us to get going this evening here in Imola. Race number 1 is ready to get underway. The drivers are waiting.
Yeah, they certainly are. Zoltan Varkonyi, the Hungarian hero, after taking that perfect streak. It came to an end last time out in Bahrain, but can he restore the order as we go green here in Imola? And it's a good start from Hendrik de Vries, who's actually jumped Zoltan Varkonyi, has he, heading down into turn 1. They're side by side. Tom Osborne's going to try and pick up some scraps as we head into the Tamburello chicane. Varkonyi on the inside, de Vries on the outside. Surely Varkonyi going to pick this one up, but de Vries holding strong round that outside, swoops round, and he gets past Hungarian. They're still side by side though, as we exit out of Tamburello into the Villeneuve chicane. Zoltan Varkonyi, the Hungarian hero, looking to claim that first race victory after Bahrain, and he's kept his pole position. Alistair Ramsey moving himself up into 3rd, past Tom Osborne, and it's de Vries who has to slot in behind Varkonyi, but that's the most Varkonyi's had to work from starting from pole so far this season. As we trickle further back, Robert Pure staying in 7th, Jordan 40 being overtaken by Jordan Biddle, as Tom Osborne is looking all over the back of Alistair Ramsey. The top 2 have slightly broke away, but unlike when Zoltan usually starts at the front of the field, de Vries is keeping with him.
He certainly is. These two have had the pace so far this campaign. It's not like Timmy Lettonen's threat early on, which seemed to be extinguished after the first round. Henrik de Vries has been there every single race. He just hasn't been able to keep it there, and he's been unable to keep that bottle all the way to the finish. But as we head towards the end of the first lap, and we head towards 28 more minutes of the race around the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari, it's Zoltan Varkonyi that will lead us on to that second race. Belazats Mari, by the way, was the car that went off in the background at the start, and we've had a number of drivers who haven't gotten going in this race. Not sure what's happened to Charlton Bartoni, Mark Kerner, Jorge Prieto, Carlos Casablanca. It's basically all the ones who didn't set qualifying laps. So Manka Kashowski, Green Borcher, Knight at Kashan, and Space One as well. They've all DNF'd from this race, and so we are left to fight with the 24 left in this race, and Zoltan Varkonyi leads them all.
Yeah, Zoltan Varkonyi still leading the way, but he's going to come under some pressure from the Dutchman of Hendrik de Vries behind. But it does seem that Varkonyi is able to build a little bit of a gap over that past lap. And we'll see if de Vries is able to do anything. Can he make some cracks start to form from Varkonyi? But we know Varkonyi is good driving under pressure. Tom Osborne going for a move there on Alistair Ramsey. We know Ramsey is good at defending his positions, but Osborne seems to have cracked the code here for that third place. Round the outside it will go at Pinarino. Is it going to be enough for Ramsey to hold it on the inside? Yes, he will. He just is able to hold on, and Jordan Biddle trying to pick up on the action now. He's going to look to the inside of Tom Osborne as we head into Aqua Minerale. And very nicely done from Osborne just to keep that momentum going and keep himself in front of Jordan Biddle for now. But Tom Osborne all over the back of Alistair Ramsey, looking to try and get this move done. Of course, we know Ramsey can soak pressure up like a sponge. We've seen it so many times this season, especially at the likes of Brazil and last time out in Bahrain, where we saw Ramsey, especially in that second race in Bahrain, have Zoltan Varkonyi all over the back of him, the championship leader, but he did not falter once. He just kept going, kept pushing, kept his head down, and kept Varkonyi at bay. His new challenge is to do that to Tom Osborne behind, and can he do that? Zoltan Varkonyi now 1.3 seconds ahead of de Vries. Just was a little bit of a shaky start, it seems, for the Hungarian. So he's starting to stretch his legs at the front of the field, but that battle is certainly going to be between Alistair Ramsey, Tom Osborne, Biddle, 40, and also Robert Pure, who potentially is going to go for a move down into Tamburello. Is he to the inside there of Jordan 40? Yes, he is. The Lexus driver moves himself up into 6th place, but 40 could have the run through Tamburello and up into the Villeneuve chicane. I don't think he will. Chris, and there's a car off in the background. That's huge off at Tamburello, dropping the rear end. Must have gone straight on into the wall. That will surely be a retirement. And Pure up into 6th, exactly what he needs to do, and he splits that Aston Martin train.
Yes, at the moment, Robert Pure racing as one of the only Lexi in this race, so it's interesting to see that there are not that many, whereas last week it appeared to be the car of choice for pretty much everybody in the field, as I believe that was Massimiliano Ferrari who went off in the background and now drops himself 3.4 seconds off of the rest of the field, with Michael Donnelly, Kroenski and Chris Willems all coming out of the pit lane. And, well, with it being an incredibly long pit lane on this circuit, they don't have much of an opportunity to come back in this one, so it's not a great start for them, but it is a great start for those who've been able to keep it in this one. A race for attrition, it appears to be, as they head on through, as we're only 5 minutes into this race, and we still now only have 21 competitive cars left on the circuit, and of those 21, 4 of them in fact, are 5 or more seconds off. That's Sebastian Borgerson, Massimiliano Ferrari, Matt Fordham and Paul Garnham, who are not with the rest of the field. But, of course, they could find their way into it with just one mistake from just one driver that could cause collateral and drop everybody else down the rest of the field. But from the way that the top 4 have been driving so far, I don't think there's going to be any mistakes drawn out by Varkonyi, de Vries, Ramsey or Osborne, or at least not at the moment, as Ramsey tries to close in on de Vries. 1.5 seconds back as Varkonyi's opened up that 2-second gap, and he's stretching his legs without any of that ballast.
Yeah, he certainly is. There's been contact further back, and it's Robert Pure and Jordan 40 involved. Pure sent into a spin, 40 off the road in the gravel. I think he hit the wall. That'll be the end of the race for the Aston Martin. And oh, that's one of the Ferraris as well as Remy Alexander Borgso getting involved. I think Pure just trying to spin the car back round into the side of the Ferrari, and a lot of damage on the front end there for Remy Alexander Borgso, and I think he has got some suspension damage to go with that. I'm not too sure, but a big incident, especially for someone like Robert Pure and Jordan 40, who are 2 very much well-established front runners at this point in the season, and they have both dropped completely out of contention for at least a podium position. So that has took them 2 out of the equation. So it is now down really to Osborne versus Ramsey. Osborne all over the back of him as we head into Variante Outer. Not anything to be able to do into the chicane. Not really an overtaking opportunity in any form of car. So it's all just about setting yourself up nicely as you get the run down into the Ravazzas. So will Osborne be late enough on the brakes? Is he daring enough to go to the inside line under braking? No, he's not. Osborne still having to stick behind Ramsey. We know that BMW is quite handy in a straight line, but we also know the Aston Martin is too, so he's going to have to tuck into that slipstream. I think he's really going to have to just start showing his nose every now and then to show Ramsey he's a threat and that he will overtake at any given opportunity.
Yes, lots of opportunities will be presented across the course of the next 20 minutes as the drivers continue to race around this tight circuit where there is lots of opportunities to make mistakes. And, well, we've seen our fair share of mistakes in this race. Borgso, 40 and Pure involved in one of them. And, well, could it be that Osborne and Ramsey are part of the next one? Or could it be that they race incredibly clean? We got support for Tom Osborne in the chat. So welcome along to everybody watching, and thank you for your support. And, well, enjoy your support for the driver currently in 4th place, looking to attack for 3rd, as that is the closest battle on the field at the moment, apart from this, Massimiliano Ferrari, who was just behind Robert Pure. Pure has dived into the pit lane and will now switch that number 78. Really not having a great day, and he's going to hope to make up for it for race 2. But for now, he's just going to try and continue home and, well, finish in this one, because even if he doesn't get much of points haul from this race, it's something is better than nothing. And also, you get the practice and the preparation for the next round where he can try and attack for the podium. But it appears he is the only driver, or the only competitive driver at the top to have gone for that Lexus, as that's incredibly wide for the car in the background there. I believe that to be one of the lapped cars, Chris Willems, Michael Donnelly or Paul Garnham, and that is not ideal for him. And, well, it's going to be interesting to see where Robert Pure goes, where 1, he's in the Lexus, and 2, he is just going to be ready to fly out of the gate, as he will have got the practice running in that clean air, and now he's ready to attack the dirty air. Brian Jalise ready to attack as well, this time on Daniel Cristo.
Yeah, we'll see if Jalise is going to be able to do anything here. I don't think he will in an all-black Aston Martin here. Nice livery of just being very sleek and very stealthy. Tom Osborne has dropped a little bit further back from Alistair Ramsey. Don't know if that could be down to potentially some traffic issues, or he's just starting to manage those tyres. Of course, as we know, the heaviest car on the field, that tyre wear will be quite high. And there goes Ramsey past the Porsche Gronowski, and will Osborne follow him through? Yes, he will. Nicely done in the BMW. But of course, we do know within the heavier car, more tyre wear also lead to higher tyre temperatures. So that could potentially be the downfall of Osborne in this race. We saw it in Brazil, where those BMW's tyres just hit the cliff, and he was no match for the Aston Martins, who were just pushing on in front of him, and he started to find his way back through the field. And Dan Wilson is DNF'd on the road. I don't know what's happened to him around the circuit. He was in front of Sebastian Borgensen for 12th place there, and he's surprisingly just retired the car in that Iron Dams Lamborghini. And I'm not sure what happened. It could be. I might have just seen why. Remy Alexander Borgso is off at on the run-up into the Piratella. So potentially could have some contact been made there between the pair heading up the hill into the Piratella. And that could have been the result of Wilson's DNF. And Hendrik de Vries has brought that gap down to Verconyi by about half a second as well. So the race for the battle for the race lead might not be over yet.
No, it may well not be. There may well have been a mistake coming out from Zoltan Verconyi, a rare mistake, but one that we began to get accustomed to after last week. But for Remy Alexander Borgso, there's been a number of mistakes in this race, and he is going to be disappointed with his performance again. Another driver just like Robert Pure, who'll be hoping to do better in race number 2, but for now he's just going to have to consolidate and do as best he can with what he has. Tom Osborne getting all over the back of Alistair Ramsey, as that's a car going wide, just trying to avoid the cars in front, or the cars that are lapping, in fact, as Osborne all the way around the outside, trying to go the long way, cannot do so, and Ramsey just giving him a squeeze to the outside line. Osborne forced to sit behind for a little bit longer, but looking to threaten and feeling as though he's faster, feeling as though as well that he needs to take this opportunity. Hendrik de Vries is 2.2 seconds up the road and increasing, and it's now down to Tom Osborne to see what he can do to try and close that gap. He was a 1/10.5 quicker than Ramsey on that last lap, and it's just about seeking your opportunities to make this move. Could it be done into the chicane? I don't think he's going to be quite close enough, but if he's desperate, then he may well go for a late lunge. But no, he shan't go for one here, and it may well be another attempt down the main straight.
Yep, he certainly could do. And this race really is starting to spice up a little bit. Okonyi able to bring that gap up to 2.7 seconds, and look how close Osborne was getting under braking into the first Ravazza. This could be the BMW's opportunity to get onto the podium. Of course, a 4th place in the second race in Bahrain. Would like to go at least one step higher and on to the rostrum. But that Aston Martin is just so much quicker in a straight line, being a little bit lighter. But Osborne's still trying to do everything he can to get by, as he's now heading into turns 1 and 2 of the Tamburello chicane. Not close enough. Once again, there's a big difference between those few kilograms that separate them. It's about 4 kilos that separate Osborne and Ramsey. Ramsey being the lighter of the two, but that can make a world of difference, especially getting the power down out of a certain corner like the Villeneuve chicane, like Tamburello, as we're heading into it now. Tom Osborne really close once again. There was a little mistake from Alistair Ramsey, just went a little bit wide onto the gravel. Osborne seemed to get a good drive now as we head up the hill into the Piratella, and Tom Osborne, could he go for that lunge to the inside line? It is viable, but is he late enough on the brakes? No, sits behind once again. I think he really is just eyeing up an opportunity here, Joseph, and he really is just focusing on getting down out to the Ravazza and just sticking as close to that Aston Martin as he can throughout the rest of the lap.
That's all he can really do at the moment, because you feel as though if he wanted to make his way past, if he was able to make his way past, then he certainly would do at the earliest possible opportunity. But instead, he's feeling like he has to sit in behind and wait and wait and wait for his opportunity to strike. And, well, it's very, very patient. It's a very patient game that I certainly would not be able to play, as he now tries to close down the gap 2/10 as they head into the final little segment of corners. And, yeah, as you mentioned last lap, you can see how close Tom Osborne is getting to the back of Alistair Ramsey into some of those corners, and a lot of dust thrown up by Hendrik de Vries in the foreground, who's dropped now to almost 4 seconds behind Zoltan Varkonyi, and is now getting reeled back in by Hendrik de Vries. Maybe, or reeled back in even by Alistair Ramsey. Maybe Hendrik de Vries is, maybe he pushed too early and he's just getting reeled back in by Ramsey and Osborne, who've managed their race a little bit better, and they've already consolidated that they're going to be in a battle for that second place rather than for the race lead. It's going to be a very tight finish to this race, I think, as Ramsey tries to cover off that inside line. Osborne tried to dare him to go as late as he could. Ramsey did dare, and he did go late, and that's Osborne who tried to go past, and well, there's contact between the two. Back onto the circuit for Alistair Ramsey, and an unsafe rejoin, coupled with the fact that he could not get the traction going on that gravel, and that's Tom Osborne round.
It is. I don't really think there was anything that Ramsey was able to do. The car was in a slide. He was trying to collect it, get back on the circuit, and Osborne was just slowing down to let Ramsey back through. But unfortunately for the BMW, with that sliding Aston Martin, he just got collected into the side of it. It was all Osborne's fault, though, which caused that accident. Was a little bit too daring to the inside of the Villeneuve chicane. I definitely think a penalty is going to be coming his way, with some few penalty points going on to that licence, but nothing Alistair Ramsey could have really done there. And talking about Hendrik de Vries now, he certainly has pushed that little bit too soon, but that has given him an absolute lifeline, has that incident between Ramsey and Osborne. And I just feel really sorry there for the pair of them, which is hard racing, which unfortunately ended off in the contact. And for Ramsey, he's still able to go on, but he will have severe damage to the front of that car, so it's maybe just to hang on to that 4th place. And Jordan Biddle, the ultimate gainer and all that, he'll be saying, thank you very much, I'll take that place from you, the pair of you, and I'll try hold on to it the best I possibly can, as we're on lap 10 now of the race. It's Zoltan Varkonyi strengthening his grip at the front of the field. That gap now up to 5.2 seconds. And then we now have that battle for third between Biddle, Ramsey and Christo. Craig Starkey up into 6th place. A good race so far from him, actually, in the Porsche. And then Brian Jalise 8th, Cooley 9th, and then Gary Barnum rounding out that top 10. I think something also happened to Jordan. Oh no, Jordan 40 was collected in that incident with Robert Pure. But for Zoltan Varkonyi, we could be seeing him to return to the top step of the podium after not seeing it last week. Order looks like it will certainly be restored.
Got a good number of people in the chat, so keep your chats going. It's great to see. We've got Eero Vashuri coming in after his unfortunate race, as well as Franklin Stegging's son which is an interesting one to see. And, well, welcome as well to Old Man Sim Racing, a number of people in the chat, and it's great to see as well. Brian Jalise trying to close down on Dan Birch, trying to sense an opportunity as Alistair Ramsey is now back within a second of Jordan Biddle for that third place, and Craig Starkey is also within a second of Daniel Christo up ahead, but Brian Jalise is within half a second. He's within 4/10. He's within 3/10 of Dan Birch, and he's chasing down that number 397 as much as he possibly can. I think the 397 is the default number given to custom liveries. I may well be wrong, but I think that's what that is for. And now Brian Jalise heading around the final couple of corners, closing right into the back of Dan Birch. This is a rinse and repeat of what we saw from Alistair Ramsey and Tom Osborne earlier. And will this happen again? And will we get a little bit of a sense of deja vu as we've got 397 versus 397 heading down the main straight. The Aston Martin chasing, and can he get close enough? It's an incredibly long straight where he can take full advantage of slipstream. But no, he's not close enough. And he's just going to have to wait for another lap. Sitting in the dirty air is not an ideal scenario, but if he wants that P7, it appears to be what he's going to have to do.
Yes, it certainly is what he's going to have to do. He's going to really have to put that pressure on Dan Birch, as I said earlier, in a really nice Marlboro livery McLaren. That is an absolute beauty of a GT3 custom livery. And as you can see, Jalise now all over the back of him once again. Jalise has really been the Aston Martin driver that's always there. He's just always there. He appears. He's not really in the battles too much, unlike he is here in Imola. And he just appears and stays in around about that 6th, 5th place spot. And you don't really move him away from there. But that's all you need in a championship like this for Jalise, is you just need that consistency. So for Brian, as he closes up to the back of Dan Birch, once again in that McLaren, having a very good evening for himself. Having a decent evening last time out in Bahrain. It does seem that McLaren is getting that little bit stronger as this season progresses. And we're now heading into the Variante Alta once more. Jalise all over the back of the McLaren of Dan Birch. We know that Aston Martin is quite a nifty and handy car down the straights, and he could certainly pull up to the back of the McLaren at a rate of knots when we exit the second Ravazza. So here we are then through Ravazza 1. It's all about the run out of this next corner, the final corner. Ravazza 2. Jalise really closes up under braking. He has a little wobble on corner exit though. I think that's just going to affect his run that little bit too much. And Dan Birch should be able to hold on to this position for now. But tucking into that slipstream, eating through that hole made in the air from Dan Birch. Is Jalise going to be able to get close enough for a lunge on the brakes? I don't think he will. He might look to show a nose, and no, just sits behind for now. Brian Jalise having to look at the back of that McLaren, and is still raging on for that battle for 7th. And Alistair Ramsey, even despite that damage, is starting to put some pressure on Jordan Biddle in front.
10 minutes left in the session. Alistair Ramsey trying to reclaim that P3 that he was fighting for all that time ago with Tom Osborne. He's now got a new threat, a new opponent, Jordan Biddle. And, well, there's 6/10 between the two. So P3 and P7 hotly contested towards the end of this race. We're 2/3 of the way through it. We've still got another third of racing to go. And it doesn't feel as though this one is going to be done in a hurry. These two, it appears to be that they're teammates with almost identical liveries, if not for the pink and green hues that identify the differences between them. Biddle leading Ramsey. Biddle in the pink and Ramsey in the green, heading over the crest and towards the chicane, taking as much of the chicane as you possibly can. Potentially, you might be seeing some teamwork between these two as they continue their racing on, and Brian Jalise did pull alongside Dan Birch as they headed into the chicane, but a wobble on the exit has cost him a bit of time, and he's going to have to go for that move all over again. But sensing an opportunity, going for the opportunity, and it not quite paying off is exactly what Brian Jalise has to do, weirdly enough, if he wants to apply that pressure to Dan Birch, because Dan could just fight right back. But if he can force a mistake out of the beautiful number 397, then he'll be right back into it and into that position for real.
Yes, he certainly could. Alistair Ramsey running getting close to the back of Jordan Biddle, but this is Jalise's best chance. This is the closest he's been so far heading into Tamburello. Surely he's going to look to that inside line. He does. Birch later on the brakes, really committed into there was the McLaren, and he was able to get it stopped, hit that apex nicely, and Jalise has to wait for another opportunity. Brilliant stuff from the McLaren. Really sent that one. He really meant to get that car stopped and meant to keep that position. And he's able to live another day in 7th place. Not long going to be left of this race. And for Dan Birch, he's just looking to try and hold on to 7th. And this potentially, if they keep squabbling like this, might invite Mark Cooley. He's a further 6 seconds back, but nothing can be written out just yet. Back to that battle for the final podium position. Alistair Ramsey was holding it for so long before that contact with Tom Osborne, sent him behind Jordan Biddle, and now he is looking to come back and take what was rightfully his in this race as we're heading into the Variante Alta. He's got a little bit of lap traffic in front of him, and that could really help Alistair Ramsey on the exits, as it has done him quite nicely. It's that gap around about 4/10 of a second. Oh, we're going to see Ramsey get past Biddle into turn 1.
We may well do, and this could be the switch that Alistair Ramsey has been waiting for all race long. His lines are just so much tighter in this final sector as he's setting up this opportunity to make the move on Jordan Biddle, as that's a lot of dust thrown out in the background by Daniel Christo, but it doesn't matter because he is not who we're looking at right here. We're looking at the battle for that 3rd place between these two drivers, and well, they're staying in formation as the cars in the background are allowing the lapping through, and so it's going to be Jordan Biddle who holds on to that position. What about Brian Jalise in his pursuit of Dan Birch? He's not close enough, so he will stay in P7, and Jalise in P8. 3rd and 7th stay where they are for now, as Gary Barham is starting to try and launch an assault on Mark Cooley in his Lexus.
Yep, he certainly is. Gary Barnum could try now and break up into that top 9. And we know that Lexus can be quite handy when in the right set of hands. And I think this has been Gary Barnum's best outing so far. He's not really been up in the top 10 this evening, though. He is certainly up there. So for Barnum, this could be a very nice haul of points if he's able to replicate this into the 2nd race as well. As we head up the hill into the Piratella, just drop back a little bit from the other Lexus in front. Of course, both Cooley and also Gary Barnum, both in the Lexus cars. They'll be equal down the straights, equal out of the corners as well. So we'll see if Cooley is going to be able to do anything to keep Barnum at bay. It does seem that he's dropped him ever so slightly, and that could be Barnum's one opportunity done and dusted. But back to that battle for 3rd place. It's Biddle versus Ramsey. This is over the final podium place. Last spot on the rostrum. And Ramsey is really close this time around. He's got a really good run out of the 2nd Ravazza, out of that final corner as we now head down the start-finish straight. But is that extra weight on the car going to hold him back? Is that going to be detrimental to him getting this move done on Jordan Biddle? Is he going to look to that inside line? Surely he will. Surely he thinks he's close enough for a move on the brakes. But no, elects to sit behind once again, thinking better of it. Just thinking there's a bit more time left in this race. I can still maybe make another opportunity. Maybe break Biddle down that little bit more. See where he's weak and then attack him when he least expects it. As we head through the Villeneuve chicane now. Look how close Ramsey has got there. That was a brilliant Villeneuve chicane. To the inside he goes into Tamburello. And that was very nice there from Alistair Ramsey. Really nice. And he's up into 3rd place. A beautiful run which gave him that momentum to the inside. And for Biddle, he's made that move. Unfortunately, had to drop down into 4th place. And for Ramsey, he's made that move absolutely expertly.
Yes, and what a move that ended up being. Alistair Ramsey just keeping that maturity and keeping his head on his shoulders and moving up to that 3rd place. And now he looks to solidify his teammate in 4th. And Daniel Christo not too far off. 1.6 seconds separates Biddle and Christo. But I think that's going to be that, as that's a wobble on the exit for Brian Jalise as he tried to pressure Dan Birch. And now he looks to that inside line. He may well have actually gone for that move, and it did not pay off. But for Brian Jalise, that is not all said and done. That's not all she wrote. And with the lap traffic now trying to get out of the way, Jalise is going to try and pick up that DRS. I think that may well be Remy Alexander Bogshow who he's trying to pick it up off of, and he's gone to that outside line and gone through on the number 397 in behind. Now the main straight beckons, which we will only attack once or twice more. Just over 3 minutes left in this session. 1 minute 45 to 46 the lap time expected for the leader Zoltan Varkonyi. So I think we may well be getting to more laps of racing action here under our belts in Italy. Brian Jalise not close enough once again, as once again he's squandered an opportunity.
Yep, this is the penultimate lap of the race, and Brian Jalise might have just seen his best chance go begging. And for Brian, he now needs to really get his foot down. He's not got much time left in this at all, and he needs to make it count. So, for the Aston Martin man, he needs a good field of chicane, something like we saw Alistair Ramsey have heading into the Tosa hairpin. That was a brilliant move, once again, should I say, from Alistair Ramsey. Really committed, and another big slide from Brian Jalise there out of the Tosa. And that is going to affect his run all the way up to the Piratella. I don't think he's going to get close enough once again. His best chance has really gone amiss. He swung for it, and he unfortunately striked out a little bit earlier than he was expecting. Biddle has dropped back from Alistair Ramsey. Is Christo going to be close enough for an opportunity to break into that top 4 on the final lap of the race? Zoltan Vakonyi, the Hungarian hero, heading through the final corner for the penultimate time. We're going to have one more lap in this one, you would think. And this, the final lap of the race. So for Zoltan Vakonyi, he's got one more tour of the Imola circuit. And let's see what he's going to be able to do. Crosses the line now. The final lap begins. He's got a healthy advantage over Hendrik de Vries behind.
It's fair to say healthy 10 seconds almost. It is actually almost, in fact, 9 seconds. The gap between the top 2. And well, for Zoltan Vakonyi, it has been a return to the norm. Last time out, it was a bit of a weird one. He just wasn't able to get going in Bahrain, but ever since then, here in Imola, he has just excelled. 9.4 seconds ahead of Hendrik de Vries, both of which have had pretty calm races. And not much has happened for Vakonyi or de Vries in this race. The battle and the headlines will all go and be about that battle for third place. Ramsey, Osborne and Biddle, that at the moment is led up by Alistair Ramsey, and it looks like it may well stay that way with Jordan Biddle he's closer to Daniel Christo in P5 than Alistair Ramsey in P3. An interesting one with only 21 finishers as it stands, and I don't know how many you're going to count with no less than 6. Just at least one lap down. Michael Donnelly is 3 off of the leading lap, and Zoltan Vakonyi is making the most of his not maximum ballast for this week to end up almost 10 seconds ahead of Hendrik de Vries. His momentum was broken at Bahrain, but he has well and truly wrangled it back here at the Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari. A thoroughly deserved win for Zoltan Vakonyi, and the man who's dominated this season. His title crown slipped last time out, but he puts one hand back on the trophy. He wins in Imola. What a performance from Zoltan Vakonyi here in race 1. And props to Hendrik de Vries as well for that second place as he comes across the line 8.5 seconds off of Zoltan Vakonyi, but with a performance to write home about. Alistair Ramsey taking that P3 ahead of Jordan Biddle and Daniel Christo. The closest battle on the circuit, and don't forget about Craig Starkey as well. He ended in P6, just 1.3 seconds off. Dan Birch does end up in the end ahead of Brian Jalise, who had a poor end to his race. Then it's Mark Cooley who'll come home P9 with Gary Barham in 10th place. Finally, Barham and Garnham have been splitting. It's by a lap. It's going to be Gary Barham coming home in P10. Jordan Forty and Tom Osborne unlucky to be 11th and 12th, but the game's the game, and in race 1 they lost it. 11th and 12th for them, and a lot to think about. It's going to be Franklin Steggink in 13th place, just ahead of Matt Fordham. That position not confirmed, but it looks as though Steggink is going to be able to take that one home, and indeed he is, as they are going to come out of the final corner, and Steggink gets that run that is good enough to hold that position ahead of Fordham. Then Sebastian Borgerson will be your final finisher with Robert Pure, Kronski, Alexander Borgshaw, Paul Garnham and Michael Donnelly, your final finishers as well. But for Zoltan Vakonyi, what a performance.
The Hungarian hero back on top. Zoltan Vakonyi, that's a way to bounce back from a disappointing evening last time out. And it really has worked into his favour. A midsummer nightmare into absolute sheer delight here in Italy. So, brilliant stuff from the Hungarian to reclaim his perch after seeing himself not win for the first time in an evening. And for the first time in the season, where we see the streak broken, have we just found the start of it once again. But he'll have even more ballast if he remains the highest finisher. Probably have about 60 to 70 kilos worth of ballast onto that Aston Martin if he is the top 5 in the highest point scorers, if he is the highest point scorer of the evening. Also, shout out for Hendrik Fries. If we've known him so far this season to be the man that's not been able to get it across the line. He's just made those mistakes near the end that have cost him dearly, and he had a very nice second place finish there. Nearly lost out of it if it wasn't for that Ramsey and Osborne collision, but he kept his head down. He kept pushing even after that and managed to make it to the line. Now that's to Ramsey once again. Another podium for the Brit. That man loves a good old scrap for a podium position, and he has got another one under his belt. But overall, I think that was quite an interesting race there, Joseph. A lot of drama, but still, same old story, like we've seen in previous weeks. No matter what goes on behind him, Zoltan Varkonyi knows only one thing, and that's winning.
Exactly. I mean, that is essentially, that has essentially been the name of the game for Zoltan Varkonyi. Just win, win, and win again this season. He had a whole other spin-off last race, and we didn't quite know whether he was going to be back to his best, but he certainly proved us wrong, and he will, and he has been back to his best in this race. We're just waiting on the second lobby to get going, and then we will be bringing you the action there. But it should be a very interesting, especially battle for that lead, and well, even if Zoltan Varkonyi does run away with it, De Vries, Ramsey, Biddle, Osborne, 40. P2 is going to be hotly contested.
Yeah, it certainly is going to be very hotly contested. And I mean, we saw De Vries really start to lose some pace. Is that a thing that could happen in the second race if he is in that second place spot? So for De Vries, I think it is just going to be about managing in that opening stage of the race, because I think it really was the tyres just going away ever so slightly, just starting to complain, starting to moan about the wear. So for Hendrik De Vries, he certainly has to keep his wits about him, because that incident surely won't happen again. And Ramsey, Osborne, Biddle, 40, they'll all be nipping at his heels at quite an early rate, and will be looking at trying to take that second place away from him.
They certainly will, and we've got an exciting race lined up for you. Don't go away. Back to the racing, ladies and gentlemen. We have another race day on our hands, race number 2, and we've got a shorter qualifying session which should throw up something just that little bit different. Of course, myself, Joseph Black, alongside Max Ring, as we were before in the LMGT3 Challenge, powered by Coach Dave Delta, and also helped by Driven Minds as well, a great charity, and I fully recommend that you check them out. And if you would like as well, check out the race broadcast, the first of this season, where we got to speak to the person behind Driven Minds and all about what he's doing to accelerate positive change. But to the race day this evening, and to Imola we head.
Yep, welcome back to the qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. I think the 10 minutes might have been a lobby issue from the last one, because we are back to our regular 5. I don't know if we're just maybe implementing it for the first race we do 10, and then for the second we do 5. I'll need to look up on that one, but I think we are just back to our bog standard 5-minute qualifying hyperpole, where any mistake can cost you dearly, and it could be the difference between you getting pole position and starting at the back of the grid. Jordan Biddle is the first car to be setting a lap time. Nearly got that podium from Alistair Ramsey, but unfortunately made a mistake, and that allowed Ramsey to get the drive out of Villeneuve and get that move done into toes. So be looking to come back for blood and for revenge. You can actually see on the livery that Biddle is running, and some others are running, this kind of broken white light cobblestone-ish effect with the lime green is actually made by one of our own drivers. It says it on the side there, Paul Garnham. So this is Garnham's very own livery, as we're now heading into the second Ravazza with Biddle, as he's about to start his first qualifying lap. Joseph, why don't you take us on board with a lap of the Imola circuit?
Well, the onboards don't work, so that's why I won't take us on board, but the offboards are close enough, and so we'll watch Jordan Biddle on a lap around the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Of course, it's not a Grand Prix here today. It is the LMGT3 Challenge, and Jordan Biddle heading through the first chicane, just trying to take as much curbing as possible. That is the theme of this first sector, and, well, heading wide, running on the curbs, trying to take as much curb as you can, but don't take those sausage curbs on the inside line of that chicane. That is oh so crucial. And now Biddle running as deep as you can into the corner, getting as much turn in, and just keeping that minimum speed up before putting the power back down on the exit. That is the name of the game in that Sector 1, and that is Sector 1 complete for Jordan Biddle, 30.897, and that is around the middle of what we're expecting the fastest at the moment. Alistair Ramsey, 30.3 in that first sector, and, well, the slowest of all is the 31.8, as now just, this is the braking zone where you lose a lot of time, and Jordan Biddle's lost a lot of time, so much, in fact, that he's gone off the circuit, and that is going to be the end of his competitive run. So, well, I said that could cost him a lot of time. For Jordan Biddle, it's lost him his entire lap.
Yeah, that is Biddle's session over. He'll be at the back of the grid. Of course, we saw that in Le Mans, and that could potentially be another comeback drive that he will have to make. Osborne, after that mistake with Ramsey, that collision, he's going to be looking for a much better race this time around. So for Osborne, out of the second Ravazza, now heading up into the start-finish straight. Is he going to be able to snatch provisional pole position for now? So up to the line comes Tom Osborne, crosses it. And what is it going to be? The benchmark time. Actually, he's not been able to set a time, so maybe invalidated that one. Yeah, I think he must have done, because he did come out on the circuit a lot earlier than the likes of Hendrik de Vries, who was now on a 44.8. A very nice lap time there from Hendrik, 9 tenths quicker than Dan Birch. What about your championship leader, if I can find him, Zoltan Varkonyi? He's gone to the top of the times of 44.2. A brilliant lap time from the Aston Martin man, really putting himself up there early, and he's now on to his final lap. It's Robert Pure lining up in third. Nicely done from the Lexus man, who of course had his own incident in the first race, looking to bounce back from that in the second. But at the moment here, Joseph, it's Zoltan Varkonyi on top once again from de Vries. These two seeming to really love this circuit in the Aston Martin at the moment.
Yeah, it's going to be a mixture of the driver's abilities and the Aston Martins at the moment. And Zoltan Varkonyi and Hendrik de Vries just demonstrating what it feels like when driver meets car, and just gets on from the first point that they get into it. Zoltan Varkonyi, of course, leading the way and going even quicker in his first sector on his next lap. But Jordan 40, no lap yet for the man that is currently sitting in P19 in that Aston Martin. But he's going to, of course, improve on that one in his AMR GT3 custom team. And now heads out and down the hill towards what will be the next braking zone. One of the last two braking zones on this circuit. Of course, the next one just coming up. He had a pretty decent first sector, nothing special. Second sector was quite poor in comparison to where he's going to want to be up with Zoltan Varkonyi, Hendrik de Vries. The real time gain for those at the very top is that second sector. Varkonyi and de Vries have put in 37.16s respectively. Alistair Ramsey is in P3. He's set a 37.3. That's the only driver to go within 5/10 of those up the top. And Jordan 40 is 1.4 behind in P6. So it's really that second sector where they gain all that time, because the rest of the sectors, they're pretty matched.
They certainly are, and Zoltan Varkonyi went a 10th quicker on that second lap than he did in the first. No one else seems to be able to improve on that second one. Pure starts in 4th. Christo, what can he do in the Aston Martin? Now heading up to the line. Can he at least break into that top 7? Just a few hundredths is all he needs to break into that top 7 above Osborne across the line. Now, what will Christo do? And he does break into the top 6, in fact. Finds a 10th of a second on his time. And a nice lap time there from the Aston Martin man. And this time around, it is both Dan Wilson and Robert Pure breaking up those Aston Martins. Wilson in the Lamborghini. This is the highest we've ever seen a Lamborghini so far this season, up in 5th. And Robert Pure in the Lexus in 4th. But once again, it's the mighty Hungarian. He's back on form once again with this less ballast. The car working exactly the way he wants it to. Zoltan Varkonyi takes his second pole position of the evening, and he's 5th of the season.
Yeah, he's right back on form. There was no problems there at all this evening, and he's just going to try and seal the deal in this race number 2. But, of course, everybody else looking to challenge. Hendrik de Vries trying to get his way up at the top of the field. He started on the front row last time. He'll start on the front row again. Alistair Ramsey in P3 with Robert Pure in that 4th position, and Dan Wilson in 5th. Then Daniel Christo in 6th with Jordan 40 in 7th. Tom Osborne in 8th, and then Dan Birch and Franklin Stegink rounding out the top 10, which is an interesting couple of drivers who aren't usually in said top 10, but it's a good result for them in general. Then Paul Garnham takes that 11th place home, with the 12th going to Mark Cooley. Matt Fordham in 13th, Brian Jalise in 14th, Remy Alexander Bourgso and Sebastian Bourgassen in 15th and 16th. Chris Williams 17th with Michael Donnelly 18th. Craig Starkey 19th and Gary Barham 20th. Mark Kerner in 21st with Jorge Prieto P22. Massimiliano Ferrari 23rd. Carlos Casablanca 24th. Gianni Manca 25th. Adam Koshowski, Rich Green, Daniel Bourchier, Louis Knight, Jordan Biddle down the bottom, Nikita Kashan, Space One, Charlton Bertoni, Krunski, Visuri, and Belazat Mari rounding out the field. But for Visuri and for Jordan Biddle, that's a surprise that they're all the way down at the bottom of the field. This may well have to be a great comeback drive.
I think it certainly will have to be a brilliant comeback drive for both Biddle and Visuri. So we'll see what is now about to happen. And Zoltan Varkonyi will lead us to green once more. It's the same top 3 as we saw in the opening race of from qualifying in that one. But the Hungarian hero will lead us to the green once more. Will de Vries be able to finally pip him off the line, or will Varkonyi still keep that 100% pole position into a lap 1 race lead streak? We know he's good at breaking away from the rest of the field, is Zoltan. Question is now, is he going to be able to do it once more? Is he going to be able to get a good enough start to keep him in front of Hendrik de Vries? Will be the outside for Tamburello, and we go green once again here in Imola, and it seems to be another brilliant start from Hendrik de Vries on that inside line. Is this the opportunity he needs? Is this finally going to be the streak of Zoltan's P1s taken away from him on the opening lap as we head into the first corner of Tamburello? De Vries just tucks in behind, looking for that better run. Pure being pushed out there by Ramsey. That could allow Dan Wilson to now attack the Lexus driver in the Lamborghini. Here comes De Vries though, with that momentum, with that aggression now to the inside line of the Villeneuve chicane. It won't be enough though as Vercogni goes deep into the corner though. Vercogni goes wide. De Vries hits the front of the field on that one. Here comes Pure now to the inside of Zoltan Vercogni. The robot has finally made a mistake. He is imperfect after all. And Zoltan Vercogni, that streak of leading after the first lap when he gets pole position has finally come to an end. And here comes Robert Pure now to the inside once more, but still has to defend from Dan Wilson behind. They're side by side. And Pure comes out on top in front of the Lamborghini driver. But Zoltan Vercogni, his Hungarian heartbreak at the front of the field, he has a lot of work to do now, especially behind the superb Alistair Ramsey, who we know is an ace at defending from cars behind.
Yeah, Alistair Ramsey, an ace at defending from cars behind. Hendrik De Vries is going to have to do the same thing, though, which is not something that he's been used to, and we shall see what they're going to be able to do up at the top. Zoltan Vercogni will be desperate to fight his way back, get his comfortable spot at the top, and you feel as though he may well be up there soon, as we've had a number of no starters again. We're down to 23 entrants in this race, as the likes of Mark Kerner, Jorge Prieto, all those who retired in that first race, I believe, are out in this one, as well as Belis Atmari, who's not been able to get going in this race. But as we end the first lap, Hendrik De Vries leads the way. Alistair Ramsey in P2 under a lot of pressure from Zoltan Vercogni. How much of this can the number 397 soak up as we head into the first corner? Looks like quite a lot of it. It looks like all of it. And Alistair Ramsey still following in that dirty air from Hendrik De Vries, but he is comfortable in that P2 at the moment, just warding off Zoltan Vercogni, just pretending that he's not there, not really caring about him, as we've got a side-by-side move here. Tom Osborne just trying to attack up ahead as Dan Wilson just loses the position to Robert Pure. A bit of dust thrown up, but that was from Zoltan Vercogni up ahead, and they're side-by-side between these cars. There's somebody off in the background, Daniel Christo down the end side of Tom Osborne, and making that move stick. It's Remy Alexander Borgshow, whose weekend is going from bad to worse, although it might actually be Sebastian Borgerson and Eero Visuri, who've dropped down as well. So a number of drivers just not having the greatest of weekends, and those three dropping down the field once again. Visuri and Borgshow really not having a great time, and Michael Donnelly is joining them at the back of the field. So now we have a pack of 20 cars. Eero Visuri has managed to make his way back into it, but a pack of 20 cars that are in contention for this one, and Tom Osborne is looking to carve his way further up this group. He's in P7 at the moment. Daniel Christo is in P6. He's looking to pressure, but with Jordan 40 behind, it feels like he has to make this overtake stick.
He certainly does, because 40 will pick up on any scraps possible. 40 we know is a very aggressive driver when he needs to be. If he senses an opportunity, he will strike. If he senses that blood, he'll go for it. And there's Osborne to the inside through Ravatsa 2. A bit of an uncharacteristic overtaking opportunity, but he's gone for it anyway. And that has invited 40 to the outside now of Daniel Christo as well. We now have a drag race between the two Aston Martins down the main straight. It's formation flying, it's BMW, then in the middle it's two Aston Martins and the BMW behind them, and here comes the other BMW now of Franklin Stegnick. Is he going to be able to get this move done into the Tamburello chicane? It's 40 past Christo, Stegnick past Christo as well, maybe. No, there's someone off as well, I think, in the foreground. I don't know who that might have been, but Christo just able to hang on to that position from Stegnick. Dan Birch just sitting in behind as well, looking to build off that 7th place last time around. But Osborne making his way through. He's now next victim is the Lamborghini of Dan Wilson. We'll see if he's going to be able to do anything there to get up into that top 5 after the disaster of race 1. But he has invited Jordan 40 along with him. It was opportunistic from 40, saw the gap, went for the move, and that's exactly how you make the most of someone else going for an overtake in front.
Yes, and well, they have made that move. Dan Wilson driving incredibly in that Iron Dames 85 just to try and push his way up. Potentially not the driver suited for the Iron Dames. Of course, the name Dan not necessarily meaning that he's a woman, and of course Iron Dames being a female-only team. But never assume anything. And for Dan Wilson, he is driving incredibly. That is fair to say, even if his gender identity does come into question. But they are going to end the next lap of this race with Hendrik De Vries continuing to lead the way under a lot of pressure from Alistair Ramsey, who's under more pressure from Zoltan Vercogni. The top 3 staying in position, and Hendrik De Vries Looks like he may well be building that gap. 0.8 of a second between himself and Alistair Ramsey, and it was over a second as they exited out of the final corner. And Zoltan Vakonyi, if he does fight Alistair Ramsey, is going to lose them a little bit more time. And while they head out of the first couple of corners, still in formation, but does Vakonyi spot an opportunity? Not yet, as he actually runs off the circuit. Zoltan Vakonyi, huge mistake there, as, well, this race seems to be getting from bad to worse from the pole man. And even though he sits in P3, he will be feeling as though he's missing huge opportunities.
He certainly is. He's really starting to struggle, is Zoltan Vakonyi, and he might be getting a little bit flustered sitting behind Alistair Ramsey. As we know, he's certainly a master of defense. Must have taken something like Taekwondo or Jiu-Jitsu or something, some form of martial arts, because you only use that to defend yourself, and that's exactly what Alistair Ramsey is doing, and he is superb at it. This man just soaks up the pressure. He does not let it get to him. He just looks in his mirror, sees you behind him, and he's like, yeah, I can keep you behind there for the rest of the race. Don't worry about that. You ain't going to find any way of getting by. And Ramsey is just so superb when it comes to the defensive games. He's going to need to try and pick up the pace, though, to get to the closer to the back of Hendrik de Vries, who we know will drop off soon. But as Vakonyi got the run into the first Ravatsa, he's tucked into that slipstream nicely. He's looking to pull to that inside line. Will he pull to the inside line? No, just backs out of it, looking for the run out of the first and second Ravatsa, keeping his nose nice and tucked up behind the Brit. It's the Hungarian versus the Briton in the British car of the Aston Martin. It's a drag race. It's going to be down that main straight. Will Ramsey defend that inside line through Tamburello? Will he just focus on the outside? Vakonyi looking to the inside. Ramsey might just let him through here, maybe to catch up to Hendrik de Vries in front. To the inside goes Vakonyi, and he cracks the code. He's the only driver that's been able to crack the code against Alistair Ramsey so far this season. He's done it again, and that's de Vries off the road. De Vries, when he, oh no, a story of the season. De Vries, when the pressure is on, he makes those mistakes, and he didn't even have much pressure there. It was a second clear of Zoltan Vakonyi, and he's gone for a spin on the exit of Tamburello. It's heartbreak once again for Hendrik de Vries, and it is Dutch despair here in Imola, as they thought they might have got their first win of the season, and unfortunately for Hendrik de Vries, he has gone spinning off the road, and he's fallen down to fifth. De Vries once again crumbling to the pressure behind.
What do we always say about Hendrik de Vries? He will always make that mistake in that crucial moment, unfortunately. And he's just dropped down. He's down in P5, and he's screwed up another opportunity that he'd made for himself to take an incredible result away from this race. Now P5 and potentially P6 with Daniel Christo all over the back of him and trying to pressure as the battles are going on in the background. Franklin Stegink is having a scrap with Dan Wilson as Mark Cooley and Brian Jalise are fighting. Dan Wilson, something must have happened to the Iron Dame as he's dropped down the field and is now in P8. Although this field is very close together, everybody from about 4th to about 11th place are split by only about 5 or 6 seconds, and so they will just try and continue to fight their way through this race. We're a third of the way through it, and well, this group stays close together. Jordan 40 leading Hendrik de Vries, leading Dan Christo, leading Dan Birch, leading Dan Wilson, and then leading Franklin Stegink, Mark Cooley and Brian Jalise as well. But the triplet of Dan's may well be swapping around as Wilson looks to the inside line of Birch, goes very late on the brakes, sends himself off the circuit, decides the best route for him is to just go flat out over the grass, and in the end, that's actually worked out for him. He's come back on in P9, potentially unsafe, as he's come out ahead of Mark Cooley, who he's let through, and, well, Brian Jalise has gone through as well. But Dan Wilson ready to get going once again, and a mistake at turn 1. That may well be the second mistake he's made in this race, and he's going to try and recover. Looking at that inside line, no space there on the inside of Jalise, and for the 85, it's not gotten great for him either.
It certainly hasn't. I think I know why. Tom Osborne has DNF'd from this race. I think something must have happened between them, which has dropped Dan Wilson down the field, and of course for Osborne to retire from this race. So something obviously happening. Potentially could it have been de Vries' rejoin, sending them off into a bit of a mistakeful moment. Maybe some contact happening between the pair, sending Osborne into that retirement. Only time will tell. And for Alistair Ramsey, he's picked up that pace behind Zoltan Vikonyi. This time last lap was just under a second behind the Hungarian. This time around, that gap now 0.4 seconds, 4/10 separating the pair as you have the slipstream. Will Alistair Ramsey, I don't think it'll be close enough this time around to make the move. This could just be the setup lap for next time around, or for the Villeneuve chicane. We know how strong Ramsey is through that chicane, and we saw that happen down into Tosa last time out against Jordan Biddle. For Alistair Ramsey, as he heads through the first two corners, you see Vikonyi go a little bit wider from that first apex. That can affect his run up into the Villeneuve chicane. So Ramsey, if he masters this one as he did in the last race, as Robert Pure goes wide on the exit of Tamburello, really cutting across the grass and the gravel. Vikonyi with a slide outside of Villeneuve as well. But for Robert Pure, he's able to hold on to that third place from Jordan 40 for now. But that would have been a scare for the Lexus driver. He's doing so well so far. That could have been another driver who threw it away, and another big slide for Pure. Really starting to struggle he is.
He really is, and Robert Pure just finding the limitations, I think, of that Lexus in nowhere near the pace that it was in race one, in the last round in this one. And, well, he is the only one at the top with that top-level pace in that Lexus, and he is certainly feeling it as it stands. Third place, though, is where he continues to race, but Jordan 40, Hendrik de Vries chasing down, and Daniel Christo as well. Don't forget about him, as what's happened to Robert Pure? Something's happened to Robert Pure over the crest of the hill, which means that, nope, that's just a visual glitch, which means that absolutely nothing has happened to Robert Pure, and that was just LMU playing tricks on us. And, well, for Robert Pure, he will be happy to have avoided that one. And Jordan 40 closing down 1.2 seconds behind now. Hendrik de Vries 3.1 behind. And, well, I think this may well come down to a battle between Pure and 40 for that third place.
Yep, I think it really is, but Pure is really starting to struggle. So could that where we see 40 capitalise? As in front of Vikonyi, he's got a little bit of traffic. Michael Donnelly in front. This could really affect the Aston Martin as the BMW's got a really poor launch out of the Tamburello chicane. And Vikonyi's really having to get out of this. And here comes Ramsey. This has really opened the opportunity for the Brit. He's really opened the door, has the BMW. Round the outside goes Ramsey. Will it be enough to get the move done? No, it will not. But what about this run out of Villeneuve into Tosa? Surely Ramsey's got to go for it. He's got to get this move done if he wants any chance of winning this race. Pure behind, starting to fall into the clutches of Jordan 40. They lost about a second's worth of time, did Vikonyi, in that one moment with Donnelly. Surely there'll be something said about that in the steward's room. But for Zoltan Vikonyi, he was able to survive that scare, and he's defended that one really, really well. But he's got that battle with Alistair Ramsey starting to heat up more and more as the laps tick by. About halfway through this race now, we are. And Alistair Ramsey, now out of Aqua Minerale, really needs to get his foot down. I think that was a real chance gonna miss, and I think Ramsey should have really tried sending a lunge to the inside through Tosa if he wanted any chance to get him by.
Yes, and we shall see what he's going to be able to do. If he's going to be able to fight for this one. And, well, it's going to have to be one of those that we wait and see. Alistair Ramsey 5/10 behind as it stands. And this race has certainly dished up a lot more action than the first one. Mistakes being drawn out from a number of drivers. And somehow Zoltan Vikonyi still leads, despite the fact that a couple of those mistakes have been from himself even. And well, now he's 6/10 ahead of Alistair Ramsey as they begin the next lap of this race. There's no denying that he has had that pace advantage over the rest of the field. His best time, 45.0. The second best time, a 45.2. And then another 45.2. And then it's all the way back to a 45.4. And so he is 4/10 quicker, basically, than everybody barring 2 on this grid. Alistair Ramsey, everybody at home is rooting for you to get past Zoltan Vikonyi. Of course, we are not biased in this commentary box. And so we have no opinion and no bearing in this matter. But everybody at home is willing Alistair Ramsey on. And he tries to close right in.
Yeah, I think everyone just wants a different winner. Vikonyi has been taking the spoils all season long. And the Hungarian is looking to make it another race victory. He's only missed 2 so far this season. We're now on race 10. Of now round 5. So race 10 of the season, and he has won a total of 8. Vakonyi has been absolutely amazing so far this season, and he really has been able to put his foot to the floor in this one with that less ballast, and has now been able to really push on ahead, and he's brought that gap to up to a second. So I think he is going to be starting to check out up in front here for Konyi, really using that lighter car to good use. It's only, as I said in that previous race, 4 kilos, but that is an absolute lifeline when it comes to a circuit like Imola, where you're constantly on the power, constantly getting off the power, needing to be on the power as quickly as you can. Very quick corners coming at you. You need that car to roll with the corners, and that's exactly what that less ballast can do. And it also helps with the tyre wear. It may be very little, but just hitting that cliff maybe a few laps after your opponent can really help you in the long run. Back to that battle for 3rd place. It seems to be like to have a battle for 3rd in this championship. It's Jordan 40 versus Robert Pure. That gap around about 5/10 of a second. And 40 really needs to start pushing that Lexus under any form of pressure if he wants to get this podium. Because we've seen Pure make those mistakes, we know that it can happen. We know those cracks can start to form, and Jordan 40 needs to use those to his advantage. So, what will the Aston Martin man do? Will we have an Aston Martin at 1-2-3 once again, or will the Lexus be able to stop that trend of Aston Martin dominance and bring that Lexus once again to the rostrum? Of course, got a podium in the McLaren, that was a 2nd place. Got 2 podiums last time out, a 2nd place and a race victory, did Robert Pure, and is looking to go to the rostrum once again in the Lexus. He really has took to that car so nicely. He has gelled with it. He's become one with the car, and Zoltan Vakonyi has made a mistake out of Veriante Alta. Could this be the opportunity Ramsey needs?
This may well be, and he's down that inside line. There's contact between the two as Ramsey's gone too deep into it, and he tried to pull alongside Vakonyi, who just took the regular racing line, was not expecting the Aston Martin on his inside line, and Vakonyi has just continued on. Ramsey is still in P2, but that's his battle for the lead over.
Surely it is. Ramsey, disaster there for the Briton. And unfortunately for him, I think that could potentially all be on him. Vakonyi tried leaving the room, he tried leaving the space, and Ramsey just went straight into the side of him. Maybe a little bit too hot, maybe a little bit too eager, seeing that mistake form. Potentially could have just sat behind and wait for that run, like we saw Vakonyi do to Alistair Ramsey when he got that move done on him earlier on in this race. Is just sit behind all the way down that main straight and then pull out when you need to the most. Alistair Ramsey now heading through Toza, and just going to try and claw this gap back down. We know Vakonyi can make these mistakes. This is a circuit which does punish you for it because there's grass and gravel traps everywhere. And for the Briton, he will need a brilliant drive if he wants any chance of catching back up. But I think it could be quite a challenge because we know Vakonyi, we know the Hungarian, and he really can stretch his legs. Once he gets that little hint of pressure off his shoulders, he can then just focus on getting off into the distance and just seeing himself off into the horizon.
Yeah, and well, now is his opportunity. He is probably the best driver I've ever seen at taking advantage of a lead and capitalizing on a lead. Once he gets past a car in front, or, well, puts him behind him at least, he's just going to be able to break free. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up winning this race by literally 15 minutes, of a couple of laps maybe. But no, I think he may well have a huge advantage of maybe about 10 seconds by the end of this race, even though he has only 10 minutes to make that advantage. And that is just why Zoltan Vakonyi is so incredibly dominant. For now, though, it's going to be a chase on for Alistair Ramsey, a chase on for Jordan 40, who tries to catch up for that P3. And, well, at the moment, he's right behind Robert Pure, who has had his fair share of mistakes in this race, and Jordan 40 is looking to try and force another one.
Yep, he certainly is. Pure coming under all sorts of pressure, coming up the hill last time around at Aqua Minerale. It was only 3/10 of a second separating them. And now we're going to see if 40 can bring that gap down even more. Hendrik de Vries is slowly catching up to the back of these two as well, so he can still have that podium on the cards after his earlier heartbreak and the despair that he had at the start of this race after leading with a brilliant start, putting Vakoni under pressure, showing that the Hungarian is imperfect and does make mistakes. Unfortunately, had a spin on the exit of Tamburello, and that cost him dearly. A potential race victory went down the drain, and now he's staring at trying to recover to a podium position. Robert Pure this time around has been able to extend that gap over Jordan 40, and will now really just try and keep that position. Try hold on to that third place, keep the gap to about where it is now. Try not to do as many mistakes, but 40 is starting to eke that gap down as we now head down the hill into the first of the two Ravatsas. That gap now about 0.2 of a second. Is 40 going to go for it like we saw Ramsey do? He looked for it. He did try the move, but just wasn't close enough. Had to tuck back in behind. And now as we head through the final corner, the final Ravatsa, are we going to see 40 get it done this time around? Tucked into that slipstream. He's about 0.4 behind. We know that Aston Martin, though, is quite handy when it comes to the straight line speeds. He heads down that main straight. Of course, Pure, with one of the heaviest cars in the field, is going to be quite slow down those straights, but it won't be enough into Tamburello. And Jordan 40 will have to see the back of that Lexus once more. He'll probably be getting tired of that, and seeing that the looming threat of Hendrik de Vries is getting closer, he'll want to make that move soon.
Yes, he will, and well, now is his opportunity as he tries just desperately to force a mistake out of the car in front. He has not had a shortage of mistakes, has Robert Pure, in this race, and it's just about trying to seize that opportunity and make that move when he can. It's now or never for Jordan 40 as to take this podium or to take this 5. By the way, still 22 drivers in this race as we started with. Of course, the rest of them not starting this race for whatever reasons they may well have had. But yeah, it is just a very interesting one where we have had every single driver still in this one. And while Michael Donnelly and Massimiliano Ferrari are off the field, we have everybody else just ready to keep fighting forward. And Jordan 40 trying to fight with Robert Pure, looking at that outside line into the chicane, not making it, and trying to get that power down on the exit. I think this might be a main straight move.
I think it could be a main straight move here for Jordan 40, but I don't think he's close enough this time around. Actually, just going for that move on the outside line did affect his momentum ever so slightly compared to the Lexus, but he just needs a good run out of the Ravatsa to Vries. It's brought that gap down by about a second over the course of this previous lap because of that squabbling, so he could potentially see himself thrown into this battle. 40 all over the back of Pure, tucked into that slipstream, but just around about the same gap as it was last time around. I don't think 40 will be close enough to send a lunge on the brakes, or will he? Heading into Tamburello, braking just as the curb starts on the outside. And unfortunately, will not see himself by, but he did get a good run out of Tamburello last time around. So can he get the run up into the Villeneuve chicane? You can see how close the Aston Martin really does get. He looks to the inside, he shows his nose, shows he is a threat to Robert Pure in front. This time around still isn't able to get the move done, or is he? With a good run out of Villeneuve, once again showing his nose, trying to scare Robert Pure offline, trying to think better of it and just maybe make Pure force him into that mistake. But the more he does it, the more he invites Hendrik de Vries behind, and you have to start looking in his mirrors. So he needs to get this move done now if he wants to be somewhat home safe from Hendrik de Vries behind, and Pure goes wide. A mistake has been made from the Lexus. Is 40 going to get by this time around as they head into Aqua Minerale? No, Pure just about stays ahead through the double right-hander, and Hendrik de Vries now enters the fray. De Vries has arrived, the Dutchman now entering the scene, and are we going to see him go for the move into the very anti-outer? The Dutchman looking for it, but no, not enough of a gap. So for 40, he'll now have to start looking into his mirrors, and another big chance goes a-begging for the Aston Martin man. And he's now could potentially see himself be overtaken into Tamburello more than doing the overtaking.
Yes, we may well do, as Robert Pure now on that on the front foot to try and push forward. 40 and de Vries well and truly on the rear, and well, 40 slightly on that back foot as he tried to make that move, made that mistake, and now may well drop down. But now 40 and Pure have invited Hendrik de Vries, someone who is also fast and also ready to make an attack with just under 5 minutes left. These three look like they may well be in the fight for the podium, and I don't know who's going to come out on top. 40 trying to attack into one on Robert Pure, cannot do so, and so just sits in behind, but he does have that de Vries looming in the background and maybe making a move. He's going to have to think about attacking and defending. If I was anybody, I wouldn't want to be Jordan 40 in this scenario, because he has to think about both the car in front and behind him. But for now, everybody just following through in formation. No moves made in Sector 1. I think they're going to wait for Sector 3.
Yeah, I think it could either be Sector 3 or out of Aqua Minerale. Will Robert Pure make the same mistake he did last time around? He's brought that gap up to 4 seconds over Alistair Ramsey. So the Hungarian really has shown off his brilliance once more. So for Jordan 40 though, heading into Aqua Minerale once more with the Aston Martin. Once again, having those mirrors full of the other Aston Martin of Hendrik de Vries, the Heart of Racing team car, who was leading this race at the very beginning, but making a mistake that drops him down into 5th. And he's finally been able to recover. 40 now getting the drive he needs. Out of the very anti-outer. De Vries has a slide, so this could invite 40 to go for the move as freely as he wants. He's looking to the outside line of the Ravazza. Is Pure just going to try slot in behind and defend this one? Yes, he is. It's 40 round the outside. Pure on the inside line as they head through Ravazza 1 into Ravazza 2. Pure just streaks clear, and De Vries now once again all over the back of Jordan 40 as we head into turn 1. I think we'll have 3 more racing laps, so now we're heading on to this one. 3 laps to go for 40 and co, and now we see the Aston Martin all over the back of the Lexus, pulls to that outside line as we head down into Tamburello. Late on the brakes he will go, but Pure able to defend that one really nicely into Vries, closing up a lot under braking. Could we see him go for the move into the Villeneuve chicane? I think it's still going to be line astern as they come through that first sector, but it really is still starting to kick off here. And Jordan 40 is just still sitting behind that Lexus, still being antagonized by the rear wing and the rear of that Lexus car. And he just needs to keep looking in these mirrors though, because De Vries will make a move if a failed attempt does go wrong.
Yes, and well, they're waiting to pounce. Don't forget as well, if there is a crash between these drivers, Bristow, Birch and Steggink waiting in the wings, ready to take their best results of the season. And of course, a podium potentially awaits for all 3 of them, but they have 3 cars ahead of them, all 3 of which are incredibly quick. And well, at the moment, 40 at least, and well, 40, Pure and De Vries, apart from 1 mistake apiece, have been faultless. And well, as they head on to what will be the penultimate lap, I think, of this race, Zoltan Vakonyi, where is he? He's heading out of the final corner, so this one is actually going to be very, very close as to whether we will get 1 more lap of racing. I think we're just heading on to the final one, and Zoltan Vakonyi will lead us onto it. I said he was good at taking advantage of a lead. He's 4.3 seconds up the road, and he may well be heading on to yet another victory. But these 3 fighting away for that 3rd place, Pure, 40 and De Vries. It has been an incredibly long fight, and it's going to be a frustrating one for Jordan 40, who saw his 1 opportunity squandered, but now closing in with that slipstream. Is he going to be able to make the move into turn number 1? He's certainly going to get close enough to shape one up, but he's not going to get close enough quite yet to make one, and he just sits in behind these 3, stuck in a state of limbo.
Yeah, they certainly are, and this is the final lap, so if you want to make your overtaking opportunity, if you want to get that move done, you need to do it now, and that's exactly what 40 is looking at doing. He's been very aggressive with his lines over the past few laps, and he's got even more aggressive, a lot more earlier on the power, a lot more aggressive at looking for those lunges, and look at that into Tosa, really to the inside line, forcing Robert Pure to have to defend quite aggressively as we then head up the hill into the Piratella for the final time in this race. De Vries still looking to close in on this action, to still try and make his move. Is Pure going to make that mistake through Piratella, which we saw him do only a couple laps ago? No, he's not. He holds on nicely. And is he going to be able to hold on to this 3rd place? And what a defensive drive it would have been from him if he's able to hold on as we now head through the Aqua Minerale. Jordan 40 is getting closer and closer. He really is looming in the wings. He's looking at any sniff of an opportunity. He's looking to the outside line, Pure defending the inside, but up at the front of the field, we are going to go back to basics at the front. once again, after disappointment in Bahrain, his Italian statics. And for the Hungarian hero, he may have shown he's imperfect, but he's kept that perfect run alive. So Zoltan Falconyi, after a disappointing Bahrain, he hits the front once more and extends that championship lead even further once he crosses the line. It will be Alistair Ramsey in second. And what a drive, Robert Pure. You have really enjoyed this Lexus. The slippery machine, impossible to overtake, moves into third and takes third place in this race. Jordan 40, not able to get by for fourth. De Vries fifth. Christo sixth. Birch, Stagnick, Jalise, Cooley to round out your top 10 in the other Lexus. Then it is Jordan Biddle with a drive from the back. Really nicely done from him. Gary Barnum, Craig Starkey, Dan Wilson and Matt Fordham having a little bit of a squabble, and it was Wilson who came out on top in that one. Iro Vajuri in front of Paul Garnham, Sebastian Borgenson, Chris Willems, Borgshow, and then Michael Donnelly will round out the field. But wow, Zoltan Falconyi, we're back to basics at the front. Once again, he makes it another victory. 8 wins out of 10 this season. It's only ballast that seems can stop this man, because without the ballast, I think we could have seen a perfect season from him.
Yeah, now he's got that ability to not get caught up in all that ballast because of the fact that he, obviously it was the 5 kilograms of extra ballast added every single week that you win in a row. He's broken that streak, and so it starts all over again for Zoltan Falconyi. But this week, he just absolutely flew away. By the way, that I believe there was a weird glitch last week where we didn't even have that ballast, but it still ended up being the case. That they had it, and it was the case that Zoltan Falconyi just wasn't able to pounce on the opportunity, but he was right back to it. As soon as we went back to a non-Asian track, not in the day, then he absolutely flew away. But that was that for the Emilia-Romagna race. The race that is not in San Marino, but might be in San Marino, but isn't in San Marino. And, well, that's my Discord, so let me just pull up the... There we go. Max is back. He's no longer a message from Ben Sapsford, of course, one of the men who was able to allow this series to happen alongside Craig Starkey. So we very much appreciate that. But LMGT3 Challenge round, another round that is over. What are your thoughts?
Oh, what a performance. I think Zoltan Falconyi is actually waiting for an interview, so I don't know if we want to move over to the GRDC server in a second, but a brilliant race. That was from Falconyi, and from the rest of the field, it was overall a very interesting race. Plenty of battle, and a circuit like Imola, it does make it a little bit easier to defend due to how narrow it is. And that really helped Robert Pure, and I would say heartbreak and despair for Hendrik de Vries, the Dutch driver, just not being able to capitalise once again. We said it earlier in the season that he just isn't able to get it all together. He has a good moment in the race, and then he just throws it all away. He doesn't have that clean-cut aggression, that clean-cut determination to get it through, and he just maybe pushes that little bit too hard, just trying to break that gap. Unfortunately for him, he makes those mistakes and has to settle with a 5th place finish. But it was a very good drive from everyone else overall. And for Zoltan Falconyi, we are back to the way it was. That streak now is going to be reignited, and a Hungarian hero strikes back in this battle for the championship. So, yeah, for Falconyi, again, it's a faultless win, faultless drive, and he had to make his way through the field a bit more difficult than his other wins, but he's still shown why he is winning the championship and why he won so many races before last week.
Why he's so comfortable as well. I think it's fair to say that Zoltan Falconyi is very comfortable at the top of the field, and well, we shall see what he's going to be able to do throughout the next few races, because of course that performance in Bahrain not quite up to scratch with what he would have wanted, but as we drag him into the comments box and hope that he can hear us. Well, Zoltan, if you can indeed hear us, please talk us through the race.
Hello, good evening, guys. Yeah, it was a good one. It was a harsh one, I can say that, but yeah, it was really enjoyed the whole race, and yeah, it was so epic. But yeah, we made a bit contact in the second race, what I really don't like, but yeah, it's on me, I guess. But yeah, that's it. So yeah, for the qualifying, for the first qualifying was kinda okay. I was made a lot of mistakes in the qualifying laps, and I just think my first lap was the pole lap, and that's not ideal, to be honest. So yeah, it's a bit lucky still. And yeah, for the first race, after that, in the first corners there was a tough fight with De Vries, and yeah, that was the key to just keep it clean and stay in front of him, because the dirty air is so harsh in this track. And yeah, I can manage that, and everything go to the good side, I can say that, in that race. And it was sweet after the last week when the car was not really alive, to be honest. So yeah, it has kind of surprised me still, because Imola is a tricky track. So yeah, that's the first race. And for the second qualifying was I did so much better, but the track condition, I think the track temp is go lower or higher temp, and something changed in the temp, and the pace was it's a better pace, but still, how to say, it was slower. I feel it's so slower, but yeah, it's again good for pole. And yeah, in the second race I was missed the after the first chicane, I was missed the next braking point and they make a big mistake and losing two positions, I guess, almost three. And yeah, I need to manage to go back, and yeah, it's unlucky Henrik is spin out from the first place, because I think it will be I mean, it was good pressure for him, I guess, if I'm behind him, but yeah, it's not happened because just after one lap he spin out. So yeah, and also sorry for MZ, because yeah, it was a little contact and he lost the car. And yeah, I mean, I checked it. It can be a race accident, but it's more on me, I guess. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, well, congratulations, Zoltan. 2 wins once again. You just seem to love winning. At this point, we are back to basics at the front of the field, and of course, we weren't able to see what happened to De Vries on that second race. Did he just get a little bit too wide out of Tamburello, or take too much curb through the second part of it, which sent the car into the spin?
I think I'm going into the middle of the corner, and just leave one car space, just only a one car, and he's get from the inside, a bit understeer and going into my side pod, and he just spin out because of that and losing 2 seconds. And yeah, I can leave maybe a bit more space, but to be honest, it's it's a hard corner. So yeah, the stewards will decide. So yeah, let's see.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult when you get a race win like that to feel particularly happy about it, because of course an incident race does put a dampener on proceedings, but it was still a very, very impressive from yourself. I mean, next week we have a brand new race, and well, of course every single week is a brand new race. You're back with the ballast. How are you feeling about that one?
The next race will be Fuji, or I don't remember, to be honest.
Fuji.
Fuji.
We've been told it could be subject to change. It's not actually next week. Next week we do have a break week. The week after, but we have been told that Fuji may not be 100% yet. We're going to need to double check on that, but still, you're going to have what, 65 kilos of ballast, Sultan, after this week, or is it going to be 60?
That's a good question, to be honest, because I have now 34 kilograms or 31. I don't remember. To be honest, I'll check it.
34 at the moment. No, you got 31.
31. Yeah. So I think it. I don't know how many. It will be a lot, to be honest. And if it's Fuji, it will be bad because the Fuji track is more dependent on the engine power, and as you see in Bahrain, okay, the first race was my mistake, but in the second race I just sitting in P3 and just stay in the slipstream, and that's it. And yeah, maybe that will be the same for me because it will be more ballast. So yeah, let's see what the next track, and let's hope for the best because it's not easy and you have a lot of kilos in the bag.
I've just
Yeah,
had
it's
a
not- it's-
I've just had a
it's
look.
not
I can't
always-
exactly see where it is, or I can't exactly see whether it is Fuji or not. But yeah, that's all I just wanted to add, Max.
It, no, I was going to just quickly say it's 60 kilos you'll be on for potentially Fiji there, Zoltan. So a very heavy car, and that could, especially if it is Fiji, that can really hurt you at that circuit, especially through the likes of the first sector and the final one as well, because it's very slow, very technical. A heavy car does not help out at all, does it?
Yeah, it's same like in Bahrain. So Bahrain is the same characteristic if you think about that, because the first and the third sector is more like straights and just a pure straight line speed, and there is no straight line speed at the moment, and there is a lot of kilo. And the second part was Bahrain was technical slow corners, and that's also not helping. So yeah, the mid corners are okay with this ballast, but the slow corners and the straights are nightmares for me. So, but yeah, I need to manage it and just don't make a stupid mistake like last time. And all, yeah, I can say all will go in the right way in the race, all thing. So yeah, I just need to focus on that.
Well, we shall see, and I'm sure you'll be winning by, if you manage to get it down, by about 15-20 seconds. So we look forward to that. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time, not next week. But until then, well done.
Thank you guys, and thanks for the good quality stream, and yeah, thanks for the good chat. So have a good night, guys, and see you in next 2 weeks.
The only interview we seem to get from Zoltan, but it's only ever when he wins. And yeah, I mean, we've had technical this evening, but the rest of the race, the rest of the evening has gone pretty well. So again, apologies if any of the language you heard at the start offends you. And well, you won't be seeing us for 2 weeks now. But until then, it is goodbye.